So Games Workshop have unveiled their official prices for the Warhammer 40k Christmas Battleforces. $210, €170 or £130. Are they a good deal? Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today I thought we'd talk about the price for the Christmas Battleforce boxes, go through each one of them to see roughly how much discount you get over buying the models separately, and then finish up by talking about whether or not they represent a good deal for what you buy. So Games Workshop unveiled these a couple of weeks ago, 8 Christmas Battleforce boxes for Warhammer 40k, 2 for Space Marines, 4 for other Imperial factions, and 2 for Chaos. Kinda strangely no Xenos boxes this year, considering that they tended to make quite big appearances in previous ones. The pricing is kind of what I would have expected, £130, €170 or $210. They are the same prices as the Age of Sigmar box sets, so no real massive surprise that these wound up being the same as well. Last year I believe that they had a few offerings that were the same price and a few that were a bit cheaper. It does seem to be that price regardless of which one of these that you pick up now. Maybe not too surprising, seeing as the content in seems to have at least a similar sort of value. The box sets will be going up for pre-order on Saturday the 3rd of December. Usually I believe it's somewhere around 9 or 10 in the morning local time. I think it's 10 AM in the UK. And currently we can't be too sure exactly how much stock of these Games Workshop's going to have. At least by past precedent of these limited run box sets, they can sell out very, very quickly. I believe that last year a fair bunch of them were gone literally in minutes, and it certainly seems possible that we could see a repeat of that with the more popular ones. There have been some reports of limited stock going to third-party retailers, so I wouldn't be expecting enormous amounts to be available from places like Element Games or elsewhere. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens on that front. I did also notice that in their release article for them, there were some reports of them being delayed in Australia and New Zealand as well, and joining the dots between that and their Christmas shipping guide and when they could guarantee getting you boxes and things, it did sound like that if these are delayed and you can't pre-order them in Australia and New Zealand on the 3rd, it does mean that they might well not arrive by Christmas, which is a bit weird for Christmas box sets. Not 100% sure of that, of course, but it would fit in well with saying that the last time that you can order to guarantee Christmas delivery is the 4th, so if you can't order on the 3rd, possibly they might be late. I thought we'd run through the boxes quickly now we know the prices. First up we have the Space Marines Raventstrike Battle Force, Kayvan Shrike, 2 Invicta Warsuits, 10 Reavers, 3 Eliminators, a Phobos Librarian, and some Raven Guard upgrades. It seems that this is the one that people are least interested in overall, was voted 8 out of 8 in terms of how good the boxes were when I did that vote in the last video or so, even though arguably it's got the most money worth of models in the box, around $349 depending on how much you actually value the Raven Guard upgrade sprues. Points wise it's kind of middling at 810, giving you a discount of around about 39%. That puts it on the upper end of Games Workshop's combat patrols. Obviously a good box if you want to start Phobos Space Marines, and particularly Raven Guard ones. I do feel that the Space Marine boxes are maybe just a little bit on the limited side though, having those unique characters and chapter upgrades. If you don't collect Raven Guard, then it's going to have far less value to you. Pretty well most of the Phobos units also discounted in multiple places already as well, which isn't ideal. It's not too hard to find Reavers or Invictors for cheaper. At the moment, most of the units just aren't particularly strong in game as well, perhaps besides the Eliminators. Those Space Marine units do have a bit of a way of bouncing back and getting good again. For the Adeptus Mechanicus, we've got the Elimination Maniple, 6 Cataphren Servitors, 2 Castellan Robots and the Datasmith, and 10 Skitarii. Again, it was maybe not one of the more popular ones, 7th out of 8 on the popularity vote, and a fair bit less in terms of money in the box, around about a 30% discount with about $310. Both money-wise and points-wise, this one does seem to add up to be one of the worst. I feel like on top of that, it's just not particularly stand out compared with the Combat Patrol box set, which already gets you the Cataphrons and the Skitarii troops already there. I guess it's not terrible to have another discount option to collect a very expensive army. Khorne and the Castellans being in the box are kind of cool, but again, like the Space Marines, most of this just isn't particularly strong in game at the moment. The Skitarii troops maybe being the pick of the box, and they're quite a minor feature. The other Space Marine box is the Imperial Fist Bastium Strike Force, Torgaradon, 3 Aggressors, 15 Heavy Intercessors, and the Imperial Fist Upgrade and Transfers. 6th out of 8 in the popularity contest. Getting those expensive Heavy Intercessors discounted isn't terrible though. So if you did want an army that's very themed around Gravis boys, then this could be a good start. At least compared with maybe Shrike, Torgaradon might be a bit more convertible into a different Space Marine captain if you wanted to run something besides Fists. Again, Imperial Fists and Heavy Intercessors and things aren't enormously strong in the game at the moment, and the box set seems to be the worst in terms of points that you get in the box, only 700 points worth of Space Marines there. Not particularly impressive given that they tend to be a fairly cheap army to collect comparatively. Moving on, we've got the Sisters of Battle, and I feel like people were markedly more positive about this Sanctorum guard than some of the previous three. Still though, popularity wise it was only 5th out of 8, people are more excited for other things. In this one it's Paragon Warsuits the box set, Morven Val leading 2 units of Paragon suits, 5 Celestian Sacrosants, and some Sisters of Battle. Discount wise it's kind of on a similar sort of level to the Imperial Fist at 33%, you get 930 points in the box, and I feel like this one's maybe particularly interesting as you get really quite a lot of fairly new models here. The Paragon Warsuits, Val, and the Sacrosants were part of the last Sisters release wave, and haven't been in any discount boxes before this. If you like Paragon Warsuits and you don't have more than Val, then it seems like a pretty reasonable pickup. If you don't like them, or you do have a copy of her, then it's probably going to be a lot more passable. I do feel like if you were getting into Sisters though, then a copy of this, plus maybe a couple of Combat Patrol box sets, could get you something approaching a 2,000 point army for far cheaper than you'd usually be able to collect Sisters for. Next up, we've got the Thousand Sons, the Court of the Crimson King. In this one, you get Magnus, 20 Rubik Marines, and that kit with 3 Exalted Sorcerers in, 4th out of 8 on the popularity test, and discount wise, it's kind of similar to the Sisters, around about 34% off. Obviously, this one and the Death Guard box sets are absolutely dominated by their Primarchs, though it is kind of cool to get discounted Primarchs in a value box set. That's not something that's ever happened before. And the Exalted Sorcerers and Rubik Marines are really core choices to the Thousand Sons army, basically ones that you'd probably want to play in just about every game. This one's really nice in that it has basically no overlap with the Combat Patrol, so you could get this and the Combat Patrol pretty easily. And it's very nice to see a Thousand Sons box set that isn't overrun with Zangors, which are a little bit limited popularity for the faction. Again though, building around the Primarch, it does mean that if you're a Thousand Sons collector and already have Magnus, it's going to be of limited use. Points wise though, it's certainly one of the better ones, at 1150 points if you do field the Exalted Sorcerers, very good on the points per dollar ratio for Games Workshop at over 5. Moving on, we've got the Death Guard, Mortarion, 14 Plague Marines, and 5 Blight Lord Terminators, slightly edging out the Thousand Sons in the popularity vote, but not by much. A similar kind of discount, and our points cost are around about 950, so a little bit less than the Thousand Sons, though admittedly they get a bit of a boost from having multiple expensive sorcerers. Overall, this does seem like a pretty reasonable way to start Death Guard at the moment. Some solid Terminators and Plague Marines are pretty awesome right now. They're Centimeter Primarchs, which is one of Games Workshop's most popular models they've ever made, and again it would pair pretty reasonably with the Combat Patrol box set as well, and that would allow you to flesh out the Zombie Horde and get you a couple more HQ choices. Like the Thousand Sons though, a little bit less interesting if you already have Mortarion. Then finally getting into the 2 most popular box sets in most people's eyes, we've got the Imperial Knights Chainbreaker Lance. This one gets you the Preceptor kit, plus 2 sets of the Armigers, some Warglaves and some Helverins. Again, it's over 1,000 points this one, so half of a 2,000 point army all in one go, and you could very reasonably just pick up 2 of these, and you've got a straight out competitive Imperial Knights list that you can go straight from the boxes. Really nice to see a discount for the Imperial Knights here. They don't normally have access to any way to get their kits cheaper. I'd say that out of their range, these are the right models and in the right combination. The way their codex works normally is that they've got lots of little guys running around with a few big guys to make them -1 damage and give them other exciting buffs. Armigers are really strong, Questores are really strong, and this Questores can build any of them. You don't have to lock him as the special character, and you could even use this for Chaos Knights if you should so desire. This would fill out your quota of Despoilers and War Dog Executioners and things, and then you could focus the rest of purchases on their unique kits. Overall, if you wanted to get into Imperial Knights, this is an absolutely amazing starting point, and a bit of a no-brainer if you were thinking about picking up a couple of boxes of Armigers or Questoris in the near future. Finally, and the really big one that has most people excited, are the Adeptus Custodes Watchers of the Gate. This one perhaps being particularly standout, as it is 1,400 points worth of models, pretty well most of a fairly viable Custodes army all in one fell swoop. In this, you get Trajan Valoris, 3 Virtus Praetors, 15 Custodian Guard that give you a fair few build options, including a Shield Captain on foot and a Vexilla, and 3 Alaris Custodians as well. This was voted top of the tree by you guys. There seems to be an awful lot of people who are very tempted to pick this up to get a Custodes army on the go. And the discount on the models isn't even a bad one either at 37%, that is on the higher side. In terms of points in the box, it'll get you around about 1,400 points worth of models. If you went a bit crazy and built loads of characters, it could be more I suppose. But even so, 1,400 points for $210 is amazing by Games Workshop standards. You never normally see points per dollar ratios of around about 7, and particularly not on things that are fairly usable as a standalone force in game. This box set also pairs very nicely with the Custodes Combat Patrol as well. You could pick that one up in addition and then have some Sisters of Silence filled out with that, and that will basically get you to 2,000 points all in one go. I can see why people are very tempted in this one, particularly if they like the Custodes aesthetic. I wouldn't be too surprised if there's a bit of a scramble for this one and it sells out pretty quickly. Putting that all together, here are just some overall rankings that we talked about in the previous video. Both in terms of popularity and points in the box, the Custodes, Knights, Death Guard and Thousand Sons all seem to have the edge. And they're also on the higher side of the cost of the kits included as well, at least for the most part. The AdMech in particular do seem to be getting towards the bottom of all three of these lists. That does bring us back to the question though as to whether or not these are a good deal. And to be honest, I'd broadly say, at least by Games Workshop standards, I'd say that most of them probably are, though it kind of depends on exactly what you've got and how much you want the actual models in here as to whether or not they're going to have enormous value to any one hobbyist. On paper, the discounts are pretty reasonable for Games Workshop, 30 to 40% for the different boxes, and that's pretty much in line with the discounts that you get in the Combat Patrol sets, but it isn't significantly better. In terms of models, for the money that you pay, I'd see them on fairly similar footing to the Combat Patrol boxes. Pretty reasonable deals to enter a faction, though perhaps not so great that they're pretty much auto-buy while you have the chance. I'd say maybe the most interesting things come from the box sets where there's things that aren't normally discounted here. The Imperial Knights one is nice to have any discount whatsoever on core units from the range. The Custodes get you a lot of their battle line units without being held back by the rather expensive Sisters of Silence kit, and Demon Primarchs and Paragon Warsuits getting discounts is also very cool. The kits vary at around about 3 to 7 points per dollar, all in a pretty reasonable territory for Games Workshop, where a lot of their more expensive box sets can go down to 1 to 2. So I'd say they all look fairly good in terms of getting points and models on the table and getting a Warhammer force built up. In particular, the Knights, Thousand Sons and the Adeptus Custodes more than any of them really exemplify being on the high end of that. As always though, it does really depend on exactly how much you want the kits. If you wanted some of the models from the box set but not all of them, then it might have less value to you. Not all that much point in having a big discount on something if the extra something that you got for that discount wasn't something you even wanted. Often with these ones you could think about, say, getting a box set and maybe reselling the one unit that you're really not bothered about. That way you could ignore the bit that you don't want and still hopefully get a very reasonable deal on the rest. On things like eBay as well, I also would be paying attention to see if people are reselling the contents for a bit less. With discounted Demon Primarchs and Morven Varl going, you might well get some people selling off the models from the box if they already had those and taking the rest of the models. It might just mean that if you were in the market to pick up Magnus or Mortarion, you might be able to get them individually off eBay for a bit less than you might from Games Workshop. Overall, I'd say that Games Workshop have broadly done well with these. A bit of a shame to have no Xenos boxes, but many of them look really quite tempting and interesting choices for jumping into their respective factions. Finally, seeing as we're on the subject of the Christmas Battleforces, I thought I'd just quickly mention that the Custodes Battleforce is going to be the subject of the Auspex Tactics giveaway in January. We've still got the Imperial Guard Cadia Stand ones to come, that'll be announced on the 4th of December, but I feel like this one could be a good fit for the next one. We've already talked about the box set content with Trajan Valoris, 3 Virtus Praetors, 15 Custodian Guard, 3 Alaris Terminators, about 1400 points worth of models in total. There'll be 4 of these box sets on offer, and there'll be 2 equal ways to enter, links in the video description as normal. Either you can support the channel on Patreon for any amount, that gets you automatic entry each month, and there's also an equal free way to enter via supporting on social media. Simply subscribe to the YouTube channel and like the Facebook page, and then to actually enter the draw each month, a giveaway post appears on the 1st of the month. You enter that by posting a picture of any 40k mini or imagery alongside your name and the date handwritten within the same photo. The last bit's just to see some cool models and also to make sure that the box sets get won by a real hobbyist and not just someone spamming Facebook accounts. Then I put all the entries equally, the free Facebook ones and the Patreon entries, into a random number generator, and I announce the winners on the 4th of the month and post out the boxes to you wherever you might be in the world. There'll be further similar giveaways each month. There is of course still the Cadia Stands one, which will be the December one with the same entry rules. There's 4 copies of that box set ready and waiting to go. In any case, feel free to check out the Patreon page linked in the video description, or check back on the Facebook page on the 1st. So anyway, let me know what you think of the prices. Is it a good deal or not from Games Workshop on the Christmas Battleforces? Let me know whether you'll be picking them up or not and why, down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where I'll certainly keep the regular 40k stuff coming. I do tend to post videos just about every day, and I tend to cover Games Workshop's news and releases. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, the Patreon page links below does also give a few other things besides the giveaway. Channel patrons get to see certain videos early, get to vote on regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and also other things like your name in the credits and other bits. If any of that sounds interesting to you, then feel free to check it out. The link's in the video description. In any case, an enormous thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.